Yeah,
Did you? I
that.
couldn't get
I
in.
clicked the calendar.
Yeah, the link, the
The link
calendar
is
link
not right on
is
the.
the
Oh,
right
you
link.
clicked the link. Okay. I used the number that was in the chart at the top, but I think they changed it to the one at the bottom. So we'll get it figured out. But we may have some people joining us as we go. So I've got some, I think will be a really fun thing today. We're going to talk to a couple of launch agents who have in different ways gotten some momentum going, gotten some business going, and I want to talk to them about how that came to be, and just to give you some inspiration, more than anything, just to show you that there are a number of different ways that you could start to get that momentum going for your business. And it's not for a comparison or a, oh, I wish I had that, or this is to kind of give you some inspiration, give you some examples of things people are doing, and kind of pull out the key points to say, you know, these are the real things that you should be putting your energy into. This is how you can focus yourself to start getting some business. And I'm looking for you to ask questions, to you know, get some clarification after I kind of start the interview with these folks. So this should be interactive. I want you to walk away with some things that will give you a little burst of energy, a little fire in your belly, to get out there and start doing some business. Sound good? Awesome. So just a quick plug and reminder, if you haven't, reach out to me by text to set up your accountability call. This is just a 15-20 minute quick call. It's your opportunity to talk with me about where you stand with your top 5, how things are going with your business, you know, all of the things that you're doing to get that momentum going. It's a check-in. It's a point of saying, okay, this is due on this day. I'm going to talk to Amanda on this day about this. So if you haven't done that, text me. We'll set up a time. I find accountability to be a really important piece of keeping me on task. So even if you're just starting out, it's a good chance for us to chat about what your goal is going to be for the next time we talk, which ideally at least once a month we're checking in. So that is just a plug for that. So I'm going to start out by talking to somebody who's quite new to real estate, to Keller Williams, and to the launch group, Jackie Rubin, who had a killer weekend. If anybody saw her post on Facebook. Thank you, Jackie, for agreeing to chat with us and kind of share your experience this weekend.
Yeah.
You know, I think something that people see is like somebody comes like bombing out of the gate, just like rock star status right away. And it's hard to figure out like, how does that happen? And sometimes it's kind of a little bit of chance, but I think it's also putting yourself in the right position.
Yes.
Yeah, but putting yourself out there, putting yourself in the right position, having the right attitude about it, using your resources, and knowing what your responsibilities are, what you can offer, I think are really the key to taking advantage of those awesome opportunities. So
Right.
fill us in. What happened?
Well, I felt like, so I actually took my exam 1 month ago today. And then the following week I joined KW, and I didn't really have a sphere that I really thought that I had. I was newer to the area, and I had bought a house from someone at JSG. And so I reached out to them once I became licensed, and I was like, can I shadow? Like, you know, da, 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 da. So I started shadowing open houses when they opened, you know, so 2 weeks ago. And I was shadowing the Frank Lloyd Wright Apprentice House on Shore Drive in Whitefish Bay. And I had shadowed 2 different agents for their open houses. And so I kind of had 2 different like role plays of like, you know, how 2 different agents were gonna, you know, talk to someone, talk about the house, all that. And then I could kind of form my own stuff. So I ended up signing with JSG last week, Tuesday. And so this was the first property that they gave me for my own open house, which I thought was a great idea on their part because I'd already been in it so much. And, you know, how could I really F that up that much? So I had the open house last Thursday, and had some people in it, not too crazy, anything like that. And I was picking up my signs, and I was over by Lake Drive picking up my last sign, putting it in my car, and this like car almost like runs me off the road and is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I would love that house. I want to see it. And I was like, it's closed now, and there's private showings for the rest of the night, which there were. And I said, so look, this is what we're going to want to do. We're going to want to sign a buyer agency agreement tomorrow morning, and I can then set you up with a private tour so that we can really take our time in the property, which I feel like has been kind of hard with open houses with only having one party in at a time. So I feel like I did mention that, like, oh, this private tour is just the way to go because you don't have to wait outside for your turn. Like, it is our time frame. So she kind of was like, all right. And then the next morning did the buyer agency agreement. And in the conversation, she said that, well, this is going really fast. Like, I still have a house I need to sell. And I said, that's not a problem. We can list that and get rid of that for you. No problem. And she was like, okay. So she came in, did the private tour on Saturday with me, wanted to write the offer. There was a lot of, hoops to jump over with her having an ex-husband that still owned the house that was listed. It was deeded to him, yada, yada. But then on Sunday, Janine helped me with everything at JSG because, again, I don't know what I'm doing at all. I think I've said that at every single one of these meetings is I have no idea what I am doing. And so I am just like making stuff up as I go and then texting and asking, because Janine is my mentor and influencer. Like, I signed up with her being my influencer. So she has really been helping me along the way as well. So then Sunday she came with me for us to write the offer for Shore Drive. And then immediately afterwards, we listed her house in Cumberland Forest on Kramer. And we ended up doing a 2-party single listing because Janine and another agent in the office, Ross, both had parties that have really been wanting that Whitefish Bay, Cumberland Forest area. They came in an hour later. They kind of saw each other. And so we thought that each other thought that each of them were going to write an offer. Is everyone following me? Because I confuse myself.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep, we're following.
Okay. And so one of the offers came in that night, and it was 10 grand over the listed price, and found out the other party was not going to write because they could not get pre-approval and lending for it. And we accepted. So then by, I guess yesterday morning, closed with 1.7 million.
So you've got them under contract. You have to get them through the process to closing.
Yes.
But in a matter of 3 days,
Yes.
you got two under contract for a total of 1.7 million.
Yes.
Cool. Let's just
Under
celebrate that
contract
for a minute.
Thanks. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So there's still a little bit of a journey ahead of you, but point being, if you're in the right place, if you're doing the right things, if you're using your resources, there's opportunity. And don't think that because a house is listed over 500,000 that it's not something you can reach as a new agent, right? Like, put yourself out there and take advantage of those opportunities. We're doing open houses again. Some people are doing open houses again in a responsible way. So that's certainly an opportunity for you to be out there. Also, Jackie, I have to commend you because I can't tell you how often I see people who have open houses. They're closing things down. Somebody pulls up last minute. The agent is super annoyed, and then nothing comes of it. Nope, sorry, it's closed. Oh, okay. And that's where they leave it. So kudos to you for saying, I'm going to make the most of this and get them one-on-one. We're going to do buyer agency. We're going to do this the right way. And coming from a place of contribution as the best advantage for those people is to say, it's a way better scenario if you can get through here and have enough time to look through without feeling rushed, without having to wait outside. without being part of the cattle call of the open house, and I'll be here as your guide. That was a really good call.
And I guess that brings up a good question. Like, if I knew that there was a private showing, like immediately after my open, so,
Yep.
but let's say I knew that there wasn't, like, and my open house time was over though, and I had her outside wanting to see it. Could I bring her back in? Like, what would I have done? I mean, I did it the way I did it and it worked out, but I feel like naturally, if it's allowed, I'd be like, oh, come on, let's come in, you know?
Right now.
I did the other day. Like, I was already locked up and closed, and then someone pulled up and was like, can we still see it? And I was like, yeah, because, the house is vacant and there wasn't any showings coming up, but.
So that's kind of allowed then.
Yeah, I would say err on the side of caution. So any showing, anybody in the property should be approved by the seller if it's outside of that open house time. Now, granted, there's a little bit of a window. Anytime you're doing an open house, I would say plan for an extra 15 to 30 minutes because you will get last minute people. Even if it's been dead all day, then you'll get 3 people at the last 10 minutes. So I think best case scenario is make sure you're reaching out to either the listing agent or the seller, if it's your listing, to say, hey, I've got a last minute person, is it okay? And you can tell them, let me just double check with the seller. It doesn't look bad for you to be responsible and, making sure that this is something the seller can accommodate. Even if it's empty, you can just say, I just need permission. And then I'm sure we could take a look. So that would be a best case scenario. I would say if you're like in the house still, you're packing up, it's like 10 minutes after the open house ends, shooting a quick message to the listing agent or seller to say, hey, we're running a little long, I think is generally fine. They're happy to get people in the door unless they need to get home. But yeah, just kind of making sure you cover your bases.
Good to know.
So yeah.
Thanks.
And with that house being a larger home, being, really specific architecture where it needs a little more time, I think saying like, let's take our time here is a good idea. And it's hard to say with open houses whether people are really qualified buyers or not. So it's kind of a gamble. Sometimes it's worth your while, sometimes it's not. But you have to go into it thinking, I'm going to do the very best to take great care of these folks and help them see the property and give them the right info. And then, they may have a house to sell. You may know somebody who has a buyer for it. Kudos for having the confidence to say, I know the market enough to know that this house will sell. So yes, don't worry about that. We'll get that figured out. And then using your resources, knowing that we all have buyers looking for properties, that there are people out there who have buyers that could, potentially make a single party listing work, and to understand what that is too. So kudos to you on that. Does everybody understand what a single party listing is? Is that new
Why
info
don't you
for
explain
anybody?
it?
Yeah. So a single party listing, it doesn't necessarily mean one party. So when Jackie said there were 2 interested parties, this is a not on the market listing where someone's thinking of selling, but either maybe they want to do it quickly, or they don't want a bunch of people running through their house. They may want more privacy. There's a lot of different reasons someone might want a single party listing. Or it may be that someone with a great house and you have a buyer and you just want to do this one-on-one and go to them and say, hey, I have somebody who's interested. Could we do a single party listing? It's less of a commitment for the seller. It can happen immediately. You don't need photos. You don't have to put it in MLS. You can just go right to the showing. So you sign a listing contract with that specific buyer's name, full name written in the contract. This is not a marketed property. This is a single party listing for blah, blah, and blah, blah. Then once it's signed, you can set up your showing, and that buyer has the opportunity to look at the property and write an offer. And you set a time frame in there. So you can say, we're going to give you a few days to figure it out, or a week, or whatever it is. And then we're going to go live with the listing or something like that. So it is a huge advantage to a buyer in this market to have a single party listing, because the competition's so heavy and because the inventory is so limited. So that was a really good call to say how, let's be able to do this quickly. I know a bunch of agents with people who probably have, an interest in this home. And so put it together quickly, get an offer right away. Having 2 people on a single party listing is great, Jackie, because like you said, you've got that competition. They saw each other. They knew they had to be aggressive. And that worked out great. So, you know, it's these crazy things that happen where you think like, I was just in the right place at the right time. I didn't do anything. I relied on everybody else. But you had some really good instincts to say like, I should definitely make something happen with these people. You know, oh, you have a home to sell. I have resources. I know how we can make this work quickly. So even though you don't know anything, you know enough to know that there are different ways to make that work in an efficient way. And if you didn't know that, that could have been a much more complicated situation. So it was definitely worth, you know, taking the time to use that information, to use your resources. Now, not everybody is in JSG and not everybody came in through Janine, but know that you have the helpline. You have us here to help you through those sorts of scenarios. So if there's something happening and you're like, oh, I just need some help, shoot a quick text. You can shoot the help, you know, message to the helpline. This is a 911. I need to know right away. And, you know, we're here as backup too. So having the resources you have means that you aren't, you know, somebody who doesn't know anything. You are a person who's connected to many very experienced, informed agents, and you've already absorbed some good info just in a month with your license, just from, you know, being a part of the meetings and talking to other agents and observing and being a part of these classes. So super huge kudos. That's awesome. Really great. Super excited for you. So yeah. So point being, the number of months or weeks you've been in real estate doesn't matter. You can jump right in, and, you know, don't be afraid to do that, and know that you've got good resources. You know, it is great to have your ducks in a row. It is great to have those roots in place, but you're never going to know everything. There's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know, and I'm still doing a bunch of business. Anything I'm doing that affects my clients, anything that is going to put me in a potentially legal issue of a situation, I'm being really careful about not saying what I don't know. I'm being really careful about finding out more information. But at the end of the day, use those basic skills, you know, follow your instincts, and, you know, move forward with whatever opportunities come about. And the more you put yourself in a good position for that to happen, open houses, reaching out to people, using those contacts, the more likely you are to have those opportunities. And if it's something crazy, like, you know, a really awesome price point, and you're like, oh, this isn't, you know, I'm new, I don't really deserve this, or I don't know how to handle this, like, use your resources to get you through that. Put yourself in those great opportunity positions, because you never know what might happen. So you've got some really awesome momentum right off the bat, Jackie. That's amazing. So
thanks. And
kudos.
I do think that, I mean, doing these classes, the launch classes, like, super helpful, because I think one thing I have talked about during these is that I don't have a sphere. And so it was really like trying to figure out like what was going to be help me, not having a sphere, kind of being new to the area. And I was kind of going off, okay, I was going to try and do neighborhood of where I bought my house. And then also just try and befriend agents and do what has been suggested of being like, do you need help with an open house? Can I shadow? Like, do you want me to take some load off of you and do your open house for you? Like, whatever you need. And that was kind of my mindset. Like, yes, things kind of took a turn of like then joining a group in the last week, but it was really my mindset of like, I knew that I didn't know anything, but I knew that I was like good at talking to strangers, and that was probably going to be where I was going to start connecting with people or buyers or get leads, was doing it that way. So it kind of was part of the path of, you know, from what I was learning from these classes, for sure.
Awesome.
So,
Like,
Jackie, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So what made you decide it's like you were going to take the leap to join a team rather than continue doing it solo?
I don't know. Like, I've had conversations with Elizabeth on these calls with this, and like, you know, I've gone back and forth of trying to figure out what was going to be best for me. I think that two things. One was I love the culture of KW and that like we're all one big like family and that like we can be helping each other out and leaning on each other and that people can lean on me. I am coming from a dual career where I was a solo person. So like I really, really yearned and owning a business of being an individual. So I really yearned for like wanting more of a connection, a tighter family, office mates, things like that. So I think personally, just coming from the other end of it, of only being by myself with my other career, I wanted something a little tighter. And so that's why I wanted to be with a team. Also, I think because Janine sold me my house 2 years ago, I just naturally, that was my relationship of just even only joining KW. I didn't even look at any other, agencies, and I didn't even really know the culture either when I signed on to KW. Like I was just like, oh, well, I know Janine, so I'll go to KW. And now I've learned that like I've definitely made the best decision of my life in choosing KW. But I think also just how my relationships that I had like have just like grown in step to just joining a team naturally.
And I think it's really good, as Jackie as an example, to be really aware of where your strengths are. Like she said, she's great with talking to strangers. So using open houses as an opportunity. Now that it's, we're getting to a point where having people shadow is a little more acceptable. Every agent's approaching it differently, but taking advantage of that. And then being aware of what you're really looking for, what you really need, being very honest about that. Being in a position where whether you want to have that family feel or you feel like you need the administrative support or, marketing support, that sort of thing, recognizing that that's something you need, whether it's having Renee do your, help you with your contract to close or your listings or joining a team or a group. There's no shame in that. It's whatever works best for you. There are many times I wish I was on a team because there are many benefits to a team. I just know I'm too controlling. And so I'm not going to be great in a team because I like to be in charge. But I wish I didn't have that as such a strong personality trait so that I could be a part of a team because I think there are many great benefits. So, there's no shame in however you decide to do it. It's about being honest with yourself about where your needs are, where your strengths are, what you're looking for, and how you can best shine, however that happens to be. So I think that's awesome. And you figured that out early on. And, anytime you're in a group or a team, there are things to learn, there are ways to grow. Some people grow out of teams, some people stay with them forever, but there's, different opportunities, different ways to approach it. So that's awesome. Thank you, Jackie, for sharing your story. I just thought that was too cool.
Yeah.
I have two questions.
Okay.
I guess sticking on the team question first is, are there, do people like go in and out of teams? And are teams looking for people, or are you have to like push your way into a team? How do you know if teams are wanting to add people?
I think to some degree it is good. Think of it like a job where you're trying to apply to a company. So observing how that team works, what kind of production they're doing, the structure of their team, who's on the team, kind of the personality or the culture within that team, I think is important. All of us those of us who are either independent, growing a team, or part of a team are always watching, especially new agents, to see who might be a good fit, who's a go-getter, who's, really finding some successes, but maybe could use some added support, who has a great attitude and is doing the right things, but could use a little boost. And those people are reaching out to other agents. I know there are some people in launch who've had agents reach out to them. So there's some of that happening. I think you could always go to a team leader, rainmaker, somebody within a team and say, hey, I'm thinking about joining a team. Are you guys adding anybody? How do you feel about it? So it's a two-way street. It's you figuring out if that would be a good fit for you, but it's very much them figuring out if you would be a good fit for them and whether they're planning to grow. there's different models that we're following based off of the MREA on how to grow teams. So, I can speak for myself saying I'm always watching who's out there. I have some go-to people to help me with some things. And that's always in the back of my mind, is if they'd be interested in joining a team at some point, if I feel like I need to add somebody to my team, that's who I'm watching for, like who's participating. So I think that's more typical. And then on occasion, there's agents who are independent who decide to join up and form a team, maybe an equal partnership. So if you're seeing somebody who kind of fills the gaps, the weaknesses you have are their strengths and vice versa, that could be a good opportunity as well. So there's a lot of different ways to go about it.
Great answer. Thank you.
Sure.
My other quick question is more to that transaction. I was thinking, what's the risk that somebody could have written an offer that night when you say, let me meet up tomorrow with you for a buyer agency? Did that come into your mind at all?
Yeah, Jackie, how did you handle that?
What was the question? Just how I knew that I'd be able to show them the property?
No, I was just saying, did it occur that there might have been a chance that somebody could have written an offer that night, even before you signed up the buyer as a buyer agent the next morning?
Yeah, absolutely. But I also had, like, she was in her car, I was outside my car, and I was just saying, like, let's do a buyer agency. Let's get you in this house to see it. If this isn't your house, let's find you another. Like, I kind of planted the seed, like, the done deal part of this is that you found someone to help you and hold your hand through these changes that you're making.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty much the part, to be honest, that was the part that was really important to me. And I don't know how, if I really should say this, but the house is very interesting. Elizabeth came to my open house.
It's an interesting house.
Yeah. And I personally was like, she's going to take one look at this and not want it, but I have the buyer agency. And I had already set up like other appointments to go show her other properties that I felt like was going to fit what she was kind of looking for, because she wanted this house. She thought she wanted this house, but then in this car conversation, she said that she liked modern, new build. This house was, 900,000, and she said that her top that she wanted to be was 700. So again, I kind of went into it like this is gonna be a great learning experience for me to be going through this process with her right now. But I did not for a second think that she was actually gonna just be blown away by this house when I showed her. So no, it did not cross my mind that there might be other offers, or it might be, off the market or under contract by the time I got her through it. No.
A couple years ago, it was in the 500s, wasn't it?
It was sold for $650 in 2012.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and Alex, one thing that you could do if you're in a position like that is you can always reach out to the listing agent and say, I've got somebody, we can't get until tomorrow. When are you reviewing offers, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
You can usually tell if you think the place is going to go quickly, but I think Jackie had the right instinct in saying looking long game. This might not be the house for them, but I'm going to get buyer agency, and I'm going to, schedule other showings to show that I'm taking the initiative, working on their behalf. This is a relationship now. It's not just about this house. And I think that was a great way to look at it.
That was great. Yeah.
I do want to add that, because I'm just remembering stuff now, because again, this is all completely random to me that this all happened. But I think that something that was really important too was that she wanted to see it, but she was like, but I'm in no rush. I don't think I'm gonna list my house until next spring. I really want, and I guess the only example that I had is when I've personally, my wife and I have bought and sold houses that we've lived in either Chicago or in the Milwaukee area. And I knew that I said, or she said, okay, we might look at this house, but we're not looking for real for another few months or another year or two. And it is crazy how quick, things change in a day when you see that house and you can start visualizing it and you're like, this is it. How do we do this? Let's make it happen. And so she was saying all this stuff to me that has come out of my mouth before as, you know, a buyer. And so I was just like, she might be right, you know, like, and this is my first time. I'm in no rush. Like, let's take our time, you know, but I also knew that it could go very fast, but absolutely not as fast as it did. That's it.
Yep. You just never know. You
Yeah.
really never know. Now I want to switch over to Annie Jerzyk, who's been in the launch program for a little while. She just had a closing in May, and I wanted to give another perspective on, you know, just doing business. So like you're in, you know, you put yourself in the best position you can. Like Jackie, you get like an awesome opportunity and it works out because you're doing all the things you should. But you know, what else could you be doing? Or, you know, people who are out there doing all the right things. You know, Annie, you've been consistently in the classes, you're part of an accountability group, you know, you're doing all the right things, and, you know, getting that momentum going to where you feel like you kind of have some rhythm and some speed, I think is another way that you can kind of get into this business and get through the launch program. So how has that been for you?
Thank you. Great to see everybody. Regarding teams, so Amanda mentioned that I'm in an accountability group. A year ago when I joined Keller Williams, there was a group of us that were just coalesced together, asking each other questions. And we decided to, instead of being on a team, we would have our own group. And so we meet once a week. Now it's by Zoom. We just had a great meeting. Sue Nicola taught us how to do CMAs in our last class. And so we figure out what we need as a group. And so you can kind of make your own team in a way. That's a loose thing. So figure out what works best for you. I think the tide totally changed based on a conversation I had with Amanda. That is when the ship turned. And that was in December, because I was so flippin' frustrated. I was hosting open houses. You know, I have behind me in my office, I do little clipboards for my open houses. I have, you know, people sign in. I have all of their sign-ins. I, you know, keep these all really organized. I know every open house who came and when they came, but still wasn't getting anything. And Amanda was like, well, email them through Flex Medical MLS and send them, talk to them through that, because you'll know who opens the dang emails. Where if you send it through the KW website, you have no idea if people open it or not, if they don't respond to you. But through MLS, you know. And so what I did is every open house, I created a search in MLS, and I subscribed to it. I didn't subscribe anyone else to it. I subscribed to it. And every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I go through the open houses, and those buyers that were potential, they weren't working with an agent, they were potential, I would send them through MLS saying, these great houses came on the market in the last 2 weeks that are similar to the house that I met you at the open house. If you'd like to see one of these, please let me know. And I keep a spreadsheet. And so I put in the spreadsheet, I put what open house I met them at, and the date that I sent the email. And you use the same basic email that you send to everybody. You just send them the different searches. And then I mark in red, I change the color of the date that I sent it if they open the email. So I know the people that are interested, and those are the people I then contact and say, hey, I've seen you open these emails. Which house do you think is more appealing to you? And then we end up having great conversations. And I went from, you know, having a few people to I just created a board that, you know, I have 2 buyers that are under contract. I closed one that was from my sphere at the end of May. I have 2 buyers that I'm closing, one June 30th and one July 15th. They were from open houses, follow-ups. I have another 12 that I'm actively looking for. And of those 12, 10 of them are from open houses. And it's people that have signed with me that as soon as a property comes on, they want to do it. And so it's really keeping track of who you're talking to. Don't forget them, because somebody who didn't talk to me from September finally reached out to me. Keep sending them those emails. Keep reaching out.
It is definitely more long game with some people, and it's really great. Annie, with your 12 people, do you have some who are like closer to being ready and some who are further out?
Oh, yes, very much so. Very much so. And so I have active, and then I have holding patterns, folks that are in a holding pattern. And so every time somebody who's in my active pile, a listing comes up, and I know, I look at those listings as well. And if it's something that's really cute, what do you think about this house? You want to see it this afternoon?
Mm-hmm.
And
isn't it amazing how much they react?
Yeah.
If you send people a house, they react. If you send them a condo, they react. If you send them an email and you're like, so what's up? What are you thinking? You know, I need something from you. But if you're like, oh my gosh, look how cute this is. Everybody likes looking at houses, right? So even if they've been a little stagnant or their life has changed or whatever, you usually at least get some response from them. And like you said, if you send an MLS email with a listing link, you can set it up to tell you when they open it. And then you can decide whether you tell them, I saw you opened it, or you just say, I was thinking of you, or this house popped up, did you happen to notice, or whatever you want to say, because you know they're engaging, and that can be that link that you need. Annie, with those 12 people,
and just to go back with you, just to go back, and when I talk with them, even if their house even isn't perfect, I find out why it's not perfect. And then I keep track of those notes. So I know, like, I have one couple that has humongous bedroom furniture. And so they look at it and go, oh, no, that'll never work because our bedroom furniture will never fit in there. And so I'm like, okay, note to self, I'm going to really look for houses that the master bedroom is so big.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And for those 12 people you have, Annie, have you had buyer agency meetings with them? How has that relationship grown?
So out of them, so like, okay, I'm a visual learner. So on my board, for instance, I have these little squares that, and it's opposite, sorry, that I keep track of. And so I have boxes that I check to see if they have buyer agency, make sure, did I send them Keller Williams disclosures, if they have been pre-approved, and if I have an MLS search for them. And so usually I don't go after buyer agency until I've met with them once, face-to-face, by doing a showing. That's when I start going after buyer agency in this world.
Okay. And are you doing buyer consultations at this point, or are you still kind of developing that?
No, I do them over Zoom. And
Cool.
so I created a house hunting guide that I send it to them ahead of time, and then they look at it and really have those conversations. And then we go through it together, that I write down everything they're saying. And then I create a search, but then I know more of what they're looking for. And then I got these on Amazon. On Amazon, you can get these. They're plastic folders, so they hold up in the rain. They hold up with everything. They have 5 pockets in them, and that's how I organize everything. And so once I meet with somebody and I do a buyer agency search, then I keep that in the first pocket. Everything I show them, I put in the first pocket as well, and put notes of why they work or why they don't work. And then, but then I carry it through so that I have all their offer. If they make an offer, that goes in here. The next file has all their inspection stuff, so that goes in here. So when I know I'm meeting with somebody, I just take this file and everything is together, which is key to me.
Awesome. And you can do that. You can do that on paper, and you can do it digitally. So all that stuff's in Command too. I'm kind of a combination of paper and digital. I know Annie likes paper too. And so you can go about it in a way that works best for you. And if you want to keep
Right.
track of those interactions, instead of a spreadsheet, there is a spot in Command where you can make notes of all the communication you've had with people as well. So use what works best for you. Know your strengths, know you know, your tendencies and the path of least resistance to get that momentum going. So if you're just feeling really stuck with Command, like get the names in there. And if you don't use it for all the other things, figure out a system that works for you, and then you can always adjust it. But I think Annie makes a great point. There's a point where you may feel stuck or frustrated, and then it's a matter of doubling down on what's working and really investing the time in follow-up and sticking with those people. If you think of the visual of a pipeline, Annie's got a pipeline. It's not everything in one basket right away, right? It's a pipeline. So it's like the now people, the later people, the people who are maybes. If you've ever walked past my office, I also have a Post-it board, and or you can't tell what it's organized by, but it's organized by who's under contract, who's active, who's coming up, and who's like way down the line. And then I've got a whole nother frame full of Post-its of people who are like maybe. And whenever I feel like business is slow, I go back to all those upcoming people, and I'm like, what can I find for them? I think one great thing that you can do that Annie might do, that I've taken up doing in the last year or two, is every day, twice a day, I go to the hot sheet. Does everybody know how to get to the hot sheet in MLS? So this is a really great tool, and I love having it on my phone. So if you don't have the MLS app on your phone, it's definitely worth getting. It's free. It's pretty user friendly. There's a few quirks to figure out, but once you've got it down, it's very straightforward. What I like about it is when there are times of day when I'm waiting in line or sitting in my car between appointments and I've just got a few minutes and I go on social media. Anybody else in this position? You've got like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and you're like, I'll just screw around on Instagram. You could be making business happen. You could go into the MLS app, and at the bottom, there's a little flame for the hot sheet, and you can set it up for today, the last 2 days, or the last 3 days, and it's all the new activity, and it's organized by status. So it's new listings, it's price changes, it's upcoming or delayed listings, it's back on the market. That is where you can go if you do a broad search. So you can say, okay, all the buyers I'm working with right now are looking in Whitefish Bay, or all the buyers I'm working with right now are working in these 3 counties. That's usually what I do. I search 3 counties. Search it, bring it up. I go into the new listings, go from whatever price point to whatever price point. And then as I go through, if I see anything that might be of interest to anybody on my pipeline, as long as they're within like my memory range of like who I'm working with, up to 20 people or something like that, I'm texting or emailing them, depending on their preference, directly from the app, that one property. I'm saying, what do you think of this? Oh, I just saw this pop up. This kitchen made me think of you. And like Annie said, even if it's not perfect, it's an opportunity to have a conversation. It's an opportunity to further clarify what they're looking for. And it's your chance to show them you're working for them, especially if you don't have buyer agency yet, but definitely if you have buyer agency. They don't know that you're digging around and there's no inventory. They want to know that you're working for them. So sending them properties, even if you say, I know this isn't exactly what you're looking for, but these 2 things about this house seem to be a good fit. You would be surprised. Like Jackie said, the house that she had for the open did not sound like what this buyer wanted. And then she got in there and it was the house they wanted to buy. So going a little bit outside of search parameters, going a little bit outside of the description they've given you is not a bad idea. If you think about it yourself, if you're looking for a home yourself, or if you've purchased a home before, you know that you kind of go outside of what you said you wanted just to see, to try it on. So you never know. So I think going into that, kind of working like Annie does with your pipeline, is one easy way to like make some progress. Say you did something important today and you can do it really quick on the side a few times a day, or sit down with, fully focused, really concentrated on getting through the whole hot sheet or touching everyone on that pipeline, to try to get some conversation going. So I think that's great.
The other thing that I did that changed things a lot for me was I wasn't getting the open houses. And it was like JSG will send out a list of open houses, and they send the open houses, don't take this wrong, but it's kind of the dogs, the houses that have been on the property for a long time. And it's not that you couldn't get buyers from those, but they're not going to give you the hottest properties. Their agents are going to take, their team members are going to take the hottest properties. So on MLS, if you go to in the menu, and you go to your on the far right under search, and you go under office listings, and it will bring up all of the Keller Williams North Shore listings. I live in Menominee Falls. So then I go and say, okay, who's got something in Menominee Falls? I did this morning. John Molitor has a property in Menominee Falls that's only been on the market for 3 days. So I texted him and said, dude, you want me to do your open house this weekend? I would be happy to. And he was like, oh, thank God. Can you do Saturday? And I'm like, absolutely. And
Wait,
so
where did you say that you found this, or that you can see
in MLS,
in MLS?
you go in the menu tab, there's 3 columns, at least on mine, is dashboard, add change, and search.
Mm-hmm.
See that? Under search, go to office listings.
Okay.
And that will list all of the Keller Williams office listings. And so if you're trying to farm an area, or if you're trying to be near your house because you got so many things going on that you can only do one open house, look on that and feel free to reach out to that agent and ask if you can help them sell their home.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. You want to help them sell this home. So.
Yep, absolutely. And you can find that on the app too. If you go to any listing from a Keller Williams agent, if you go to the agent info, you can click on office listings and you can see all of them. That's awesome, Annie. That's exactly what I did when I was new. I figured out pretty quickly that not every open house is equal. There are those surprises where you don't think you're going to get anyone and you do, but it does pay to find the open houses that are new to the market or just made a price drop. Look for properties that are within the area where you want to work, the price point where you want to work, and reach out to those agents directly. When it comes down to it, there's a ton of opportunity, but the people who really get those chances are the ones who reach out and ask for it. So whether that's asking for business directly to your sphere or that's asking other agents for opportunities, it really is up to you to reach out. And it feels like you're being annoying, but like Annie said, if you're there to help sell the property, you're not saying, can I please hold the open? You're saying, hey, I live in the area. I'd love to help get the word out about this property. Could I do an open? And then you can post it on social media. You're one more outlet for marketing for them and another opportunity to get some buyers in there. And yes, of course, you could benefit from that in terms of experience and meeting people, but you're also helping. So that's absolutely a great way to go about it. And to be really intentional. It's one of the words that we use a lot in Keller Williams is to be very intentional. Don't just wait for someone to post that they need open house help. Don't just wait to see what's going on this weekend and then it's Friday and you're like, hey, anybody got an open I could do? Like, be proactive and be intentional. Figure out where you want to work. Figure out the kind of buyers you're looking for. Find those properties that are out there and see if you can do an open house. And even if it's not a new listing, but you just want your face in the neighborhood and you want to be known as that person for that area, even if it's been out there for a little while, be that person, do that open, push it out there to your sphere, however you want, however you can, whether you're flyering the neighborhood, you're putting stuff on social media. It's a really excellent opportunity to start to make yourself look like that area person or that type of home person, that go-to. I watched Jackie posting things all week about her upcoming open houses. And I was like, damn, Jackie, you just started. And she like looks like she knows what she's doing. She looks like a real estate agent. You look at her Facebook page and you're like, oh my God, Jackie's a real estate agent. She knows what she's doing. She's got this great listing. I'm totally going to reach out to her. I'm going to send my friend to her. Like, you want to be forthright and honest, but there is some, it's social media. So it's about people's impression of what you're doing. And if people know she's smart and she's got her stuff together and she's running a great business already in her other career, and now they see her doing this real estate stuff and they're like, oh, Jackie's awesome. Whatever she does, I'm on board. Look at her. She's killing it in real estate already. Like, you can be very intentional about that and not reactive. And those are the people who get business quick. Those are the people who get momentum. And it's not to say like, oh, I didn't start out that way, and so now I'm screwed. It takes a little while sometimes to figure out your niche and figure out your systems. Annie's an awesome example of that. She's done all the right things. She's gone to the classes. She's absorbed great information. She's part of an accountability group, and she's got her systems in place. And now she's figured out something that's working. She's doubling down on it. So, and hasn't had an open house for months, but still 12 people in your pipeline who, some who are becoming and some who will become, future closings and potentially referrals. So you're building that base, and that's exactly what you should be doing. And you're starting to see that come to fruition. So way to go, Annie. That's awesome.
Thank you. I have to run because I have another meeting, but
That's okay.
if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. We're all in the same shoes together. I had a 35-year career in the nonprofit, and I am 56 years old, and I just switched careers a year ago to do this. And it's been an awesome journey, and I'm figuring out it as I go. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to tell you what works for me. Doesn't work for everybody, but what works for me. So thank you,
Awesome.
Amanda.
Thanks, Annie.
Thank you, Annie. So
Annie.
Thank you, Annie, and thank you, Jackie, for sharing your stories. We really appreciate it. I think it means so much more coming from people in the program to have these real life examples. And I think it's really important to note these are totally different situations and totally different stories. But I think what they have in common is Annie and Jackie have both figured out what works for them, where their strengths lie, where they've found some success or think they would find success in connecting with new people, new clients, and just finding ways to get that momentum. And there's some really basic things like open houses, using MLS, following their instincts and continuing to communicate with people, being consistent, and using the resources. And that's available to all of you. So there is no reason why you shouldn't find some little fire to kind of get that momentum going. And I think these are two really great examples of different scenarios that have worked. Peter Gosman's another example. He just graduated from the program. The guy had a killer May. He has been just working and finding out what connects best with him and just doubling down on it and putting in the time and building his pipeline. And he's found success as well. So if you see people that are rocking it and you're like, man, they work kind of like me, don't be afraid to reach out. Ask them how they operate. Ask them questions about how they got started. Use each other as resources. When Sarah Oberbrunner came to our office, and I was like, who is this absolute rock star? She operates in similar ways to me. I've never met somebody like that. This is amazing. And I started connecting with her because we can help each other. And there's lots of different ways people work within our community of agents, within our office, within a team. Reach out to people, have a conversation, ask them some questions. We're all here to help in different ways. And I think, if you come from contribution or you say like, hey, if I can ever help you out with something, if you need help with a showing or whatever, I would love a few minutes of your time to ask you some questions. We're all here to help each other out. So I think there's a number of ways you can go about it, and you've got all kinds of great examples all around of people of varying degrees of experience and years or months in the business. So I hope that this was informative and kind of gave you some inspiration and some ideas of where to jump off of. We're stressing these top 5 because these are important basic things, but at the end of the day, business needs to happen and how can we make that happen, and getting that momentum going is so key. So finding something to kind of get the ball rolling and then stick with it. You might not see results immediately, but you might. And then once you have them, how do you keep it going? So it's all about that momentum. So anybody else have questions while we wrap up?
Can you show me what the MLS app actually looks like? I want to make sure I get the right one.
Yeah, I had trouble
Yeah,
finding it too.
I wonder if I can share. I don't know if I can share off of my phone. Let's see.
Or
Um,
hold your phone up to the camera.
It's the Flex MLS Pro. And
it's
if
Flex
you
MLS.
download
Yeah.
the wrong one, it will tell you, because when you try to sign in, it'll be like, you are an actual agent. You need to download this one instead.
Yep. There's a client one. I'll see if I can get an image up on the Facebook group, but it's Flex MLS. If you search Flex MLS,
Okay.
you'll
Yeah,
get
there's one,
the
it says
buyer
business.
version and the agent version.
Yeah, the one that I see, it's like a white square with a blue house and it says Flex MLS Pro.
That's the one.
And it has
Yep, that's it.
business. Is it the one that says business?
It should just be Flex MLS Pro with the little house in the middle.
Yeah, it
Okay.
says business.
Yeah, it does say business.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I put it on my phone so long ago. I don't know if there was an
That's
Right.
probably right. It should tell you if it's not when you're like trying to sign in.
Mm-hmm. And sign-ins just like it is when you do MLS on the computer.
Okay.
It doesn't have every feature. There are some things about it that are limiting, but it's really nice to have on the fly. It's also nice to have in your hand when you're showing properties, or when you're like in a neighborhood showing a property and there's a house across the street and you pull up and you're like, dang, there's a house across the street. I didn't know that. And you can pull it up really quick. So when you're in the house with them, they're like, so what's the house across the street? You can be like, oh yeah, they have an offer. It's this, that, and the other thing. So it's nice to just have like for quick reference.
Yeah.
And you can schedule showing time through it. You just click the
that's
link
nice.
and it goes right there, and you can see what's available, what's not. It's very user friendly compared to how it used to be.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, I have a question.
Well, yep.
So if you are doing, like I've been doing showings for other agents, that kind of thing. I did it last night, and then this couple's like, oh, can you keep showing us houses? And I'm like, I'd love to, yes. But I can't schedule the showing because they're actually not my clients. Correct?
Well, how is
Through
that
showing
relation
time.
set up? Okay. So that
like-
agent you were with, are they saying like, here, Beth, take these clients, or are you?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
working on
So
their
I
behalf?
was asked by the Trimble team, to show houses to this couple, and through the conversation, like, well, we're interested in continuing to look. Can you help us look at this house, this house, this house? But I can't go into showing time and schedule it. I have to message the Trimble team and be like, oh, can you set up the showing? I can't actually go into showing time and do that myself.
You should be able to, but it's important that you clarify with that team what their expectations are with this buyer. If they're just going to charge you a referral fee, then you're working with them on your own. If you're part of the team, if they want you to do this with like their team structure, I would be surprised unless you have a contract with them.
Yeah,
with
no,
the
I'm
team.
just showing it for them just because they're busy. They want to see more houses.
Okay.
I don't have a buyer agency with them at all. I'm just
okay, but the
helping
Trimble team
out.
does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I would check with the team then how they prefer you do that. Usually when I have people go out and do showings on my behalf, I'll set it up through myself and I'll tell the listing agent, my helper is going to be doing this. Here's their name. And then I forward the confirmation with showing instructions to the showing agent.
Okay.
But there have been times when I've shown properties for other agents and they've just said, set it up yourself. And then I just say like, hey, I'm showing, when I schedule it, there's a notes section and I just say, I'm showing this on behalf of the Trimble team.
Okay.
Or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure because obviously they don't pop up as a buyer of mine. So
yeah. Yeah.
it's
You can
just
always
funny.
add buyers in showing time too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how that worked because it's just a lot to, ask them while they're scrambling can you set up these two showings? It'd be easier if I could just do it. And I wasn't sure I could.
Yeah, I would just check with them, say, do you want me to set these up through myself or would you prefer they go through you? Because it's also a way, it's a way we can track you know,
Right.
you can go in and see this person has seen all these properties, so they might want it in their system. So I would just
Right.
confirm with them.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Cool. You're welcome. All right. Well, I think this was an awesome conversation. I appreciate it being more interactive. Thank you again to
one last
Jackie.
question.
And yeah,
What, you know, there's a bunch of different apps that people use for like keeping track of all their expenses for tax write-offs. What do you use? I know there's a bunch of
I
them.
use
just wanted to look
QuickBooks.
up one. What was it?
QuickBooks Self-Employed.
QuickBooks?
QuickBooks Self-Employed.
Okay, thank you.
It tracks my mileage, and I can categorize my expenses, and I can print out profit and loss statements, expense statements, tax statements for my accountant.
Okay, perfect.
I really like it.
Cool.
That's another thing I do when I've got 5 minutes in line is categorize my expenses. Having a business account makes that a lot easier because then I only put my business accounts on there. But to start with, I had it on personal, so you just flick left or right.
Is it like you take pictures of receipts and stuff?
You can. I don't, but you could.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. Well, thanks again to Jackie and Annie. I really appreciate everybody's participation. Jackie just put her phone number up there if people have questions, want to talk to her about it. You know, coming from an entrepreneur background, I think Jackie's got a really great perspective on how to attack this business. And so hopefully this will give you a little momentum, some little nugget to take with you and take some action. Don't forget to text me if you want an accountability call. If you're feeling like you're just floating and nothing's getting done and the weeks are going by, you need accountability. So whether you join a group, form a group with other agents, set up a time to talk to me, I'm happy to do that. Let's get you going. So thanks again for coming, and I hope you guys all have an awesome week.
Thanks so much. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.